You're welcome. Now, after his appointment in 2014 by the then governor of Kano State, Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, Lamido Sanusi, or as he was later known, Emir Mohammed Sanusi II, was deposed in the year 2020 by the then Kano State governor who succeeded Kwankwaso, Abdullahi Ganduje, after the two had a very, very public fallout. Now, the man you've seen on your screen, Emir Sanusi II, had several times criticized the Kano State government over matters like, the government making a $30 billion loan request and plans by the Kano State government to borrow money from the China Exim Bank to, fund a metro line. Now, for his part, Emir Sanusi was accused by the government of Kano State for supporting the opposition People's Democratic Party against Governor Ganduje's All Progressives Congress in the APC in 2019, in the 2019 general elections. And upon winning that election, Governor Ganduje's administration signed into law a legislation dividing the Kano Emirate into 5. It was hitherto the only state that had one emirate, apart from, of course, Sokoto that had the Sultan. Now, apart from dividing the Kano Emirate into 5, the law also proposed and installed an additional first-class emirs in Bichi, in Gaya, in Rano, and Karaye, and they went on to sack the emir of Kano, Lamido Sanusi, or Mohammed Sanusi II, sending him on exile to a remote community in Nasarawa State. You remember that episode when the police and military stormed the emir's palace? Well, it was that law, the State Emirate Council Law of 2019, that was repealed yesterday by the Kano State House of Assembly, scrapping the 4 emirates created in 2019 by Abdullahi Ganduje, who these days is the national chairman of the APC, and paving the way via Governor Abba Yusuf's assent for the reinstatement of Mohammed Sanusi II, this time not as the 14th emir, but as the 16th emir of Kano. Well, it's not a fairy tale story because, however, today, a federal high court in Kano has ordered the state government and other parties involved in this issue to stop the implementation of the new emirate law pending the hearing of the substantive case before it. And a suit filed by Aminuddin Agundi, who is the title holder of the emirate in Kano. There are lots of issues to look about at this, the traditional issues, the political issues, the social issues. We'll look at all of that as time permits us. I just had to give a brief background. But we have joining us tonight on the program Awwal Abdullahi Aliyu, who is a public affairs analyst. He joins us by video link. He's also a public affairs commentator. Awwal, thank you very much for your time. We're also joined by Bibi Farouk, a political analyst who is in Abuja. Farouk, good evening. Thank you very much for your time. All right, Farouk, we cannot hear you. Can you hear me, please?
Yeah, I can hear you, Koffi. I hear you loud and clear.
Fantastic. Thank you so very kindly for your time today. What's your reaction to the reinstatement of Mohammed Sanusi as the 16th emir of Kano Emirate?
I think it's wrong, something that was done wrong in the past that has been now rectified properly. You see, the law that was used to create the 5 new emirates in Kano is actually not fit and proper for an old emirate of about more than 1,000 years in Kano. We have similar emirates or councils, or let's say kingdoms in Nigeria with similar history that I think it's fit and proper not to tamper with that history, being a very old history. Kingdoms or councils that were created by the colonialists and probably by administrations can be tampered with relative ease. But to have an emirate with 1,000 years of history, just divided into 5s or 4 or 5 by fiat because someone feels he had an opportunity to sit on the seat of governor. Actually, it's a very big wrong done to people. a historical wrong of serious magnitude. And I think what has happened is that wrong has been amended back. That's one aspect of what has happened. Then the removal of the Emir itself and the reinstatement of the Emir is another aspect which lies within the laws provided for by the governor to be able to remove an Emir and to be able to appoint another one through a recommendation by the kingmakers. So it happened to Sanusi, and he took it in good strides. So if it happens to another person, I think that person should be able to also take it in good strides. And I think just this afternoon, I was reading about 19 different emirs of the north that had instances where they were removed for one reason or the other over our history, from colonial history to date. So for me, a wrong has been rectified by bringing back the Emirate to its old historical status, and the powers permitted, allowed, constitutional, but for a governor to be able to remove an emir and reinstate and bring back another one or appoint another one has been effectively utilized for this purpose.
Okay, quite interesting. I mean, this is an unprecedented situation in Kano State. We've talked about the fact that, there was some politics behind the scene at play. I want you to run us through, sir, the politics at play that led to the removal of Emir Mohammed Sanusi II, who was at the time the 14th Emir of Kano in 2020. He was installed by the then governor, Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, but Emir Sanusi was still vocal and critical. We all know who he is, maybe taken from his grandfather, who was also deposed. But when Ganduje became governor, it seems there was some sort of frosty relationship. What really happened that led to the removal of Mohammed Sanusi II as 14th Emir of Kano?
Well, I think it was a long process, to be honest. It started right from the early periods of the government of Ganduje. But honestly, I believe it was also Ganduje's effort, Ganduje's decision to reverse anything that Kwankwaso actually did. Not really because he was really irked sufficiently by the Emir, because the Emir was, yes, a social critic, and I think he stands in a situation, in a position where we would have to begin to ask ourselves, especially all of us Nigerians, whether our traditional rulers are meant to be stooges of deception to us, or they should be able to stand for us and pitch for us to whichever government is there to explain our situation and be able to give take positions that are for the benefit of the people. I don't think the emirs that feel that their job is to just keep quiet, watch unprecedented destruction of the society happens by criminal politicians, are doing the nation themselves a favor, because they took a position to lead the people, and it is part of their responsibility to stand out, to speak out, and even stand firm to protect the interests of the people. Simply because they were defeated by the colonialists and created as stooges doesn't mean that after independence they cannot come back to defend their people. It is now their own people ruling over us, our own people. So I think I can understand, because those that gave in and became lackeys of British Empire and got all the titles and KPEs, of course grandparents of the present rulers, did so because they were defeated. But now that we have at least gotten sufficient independence, they cannot remain aloof while our society is destroyed. And if you follow the governance processes of Governor Abdullahi, I assure you that it is so destructive. It is so enunciating.
Yeah, but Mr. Bibi, Sanusi Lamido, or Mohammed Sanusi II, sorry, was accused of dabbling into politics, apart from his criticism of Ganduje, the Ganduje administration. He was accused of supporting the People's Democratic Party in the 2019 elections.
You see, if we're looking at what democracy is, we tend to adopt democracy very finely. If you have not given them any constitutional responsibility that determines them to be neutral, like judges, then why are you finding it an offense when they stand for one position or the other in an ideological political setup? Why is it an offense? The civil servants just recently got judgment to allow them to begin to express political expressions and interests. Now, what is the offense in somebody who is a leader who sees an ideological formation that is benefiting his people, or sees a damage that is going to happen to his people through an ideological formation, to stand and say, no, I personally believe that this position is better than that position? Not registering for a political party, not contesting for political office, but the power to endorse should not just remain with you journalists. In fact, in Nigeria, you journalists don't even endorse.
We don't endorse. We don't take sides.
all major news media endorse one candidate or the other. You don't do it because you feel you are supposed to be neutral. We tend to alienate ourselves from our system, our leadership. We tend to alienate ourselves, and then we come to blame ourselves for what we see. We think democracy is just about a 4-year jamboree where you elect people. Democracy is about taking responsibility for day-to-day affairs that affect the people, including yourselves and others who you have responsibility to. So even the media is not doing as much as it should. It is only doing much to publicize during elections. The criticism it brings out, it's limited, and it is trying to balance. You don't balance in a political system. You take an ideology that fits what you believe is good for the people, and you pursue it. I see every media in the world will tell you this is tilted to conservatives, this is tilted to Labour, this is tilted to Democrats. But in Nigeria, you are only tilted to the money.
All right, Farouk, we'll come back to you because there's a lot we need to still unpack about Mohammed Sanusi XIV to help us understand Mohammed Sanusi XVI. Yeah, so we'll come back after that break. It's going to be quite interesting for those of you watching. Do please stay with us, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. It's still Politics HQ right here on News Central Television. My name is Koffi Bartels. We were earlier joined, and we still have the compliments of the presence of Farouk Bibi Farouk, a public affairs analyst. He joins us virtually from Abuja. Also with us, I'm glad to say that we have Awwal Abdullahi Aliyu, a public affairs commentator. He's also joining us virtually via Zoom. Abdullahi Aliyu, good to have you. Good evening.
Well, Abubakar Kari, actually, not Abdullahi.
I apologize for that, Abubakar Kari. Please, sincere apologies for that. It's good to have you. Thank you very much. Let's start by taking your own reaction to the incidents of the last 24 hours. I mean, it's been unprecedented. We have Emir Sanusi the 14th returning as Emir Sanusi the 16th, and we don't know the whereabouts of Ado Bayero, the 15th Emir of Kano.
Well, I must confess that it didn't come to me as a surprise. As a matter of fact, some of us expected it to happen for so many reasons and for so many solid reasons. First and foremost, to all the Kano people, I think the return of Sanusi was one of the major election promises made by the NNPP and Governor Abba Yusuf. They said it over and again during election that if and when they come back, they will likely revisit the first creation of the 5 Emirates, and second, and very importantly, the removal of Sanusi as Emir. That is one. Second, And the whole thing, as far as I'm concerned, is pure politics. It's a tussle for the soul of Kano State between the APC and the NNPP. The die was cast long time ago, and it was very, very clear that if the Concosia movement trial, as they did, then the days of the 5 Emirates and that of Aminu Ado were numbered. Some of us were actually surprised that it took almost a year for them to make the move. So I actually expected it. It was something that was envisaged, and it is also typical of Kano. During the Second Republic, a similar incident happened when the limited Emirate, Saba Kinzo came and abolished them, so to say.
Interesting. I want to go back to Farouk Bibi. Farouk, we were talking before we went on the break, sir, of some of the alleged sins of Mohammed Sanusi II, who was the 14th Emir of Kano. He was accused of supporting the PDP against the APC of Ganduje in the 2019 election, but also there was an investigation into the financial dealings of the Kano Emirates, where he was accused of financial misappropriation. What are your thoughts on that? Because it seems everyone is blaming Ganduje as having an agenda against Mohammed Sanusi II, but some of these allegations are there. Farouk Bibi.
Well, there were allegations against the Kano Emirate itself, but the Kano Emirate is an institution with certain people responsible for administration, for finance, for day-to-day. Mostly what the Emir does is give approval sometimes, or to some extent advise, depending on what is happening. So the attempt to rope in the Emir was not as successful as they wanted it to be, because it was not, nothing could be traced to him to have personally taken for his own personal benefit from the treasuries of the Emirate Council. What they accused was that certain large sums of monies were spent on the Emir. And that is the tradition, that being the Emir, the Emirate Council must maintain a certain status symbol for the Emir. But there was no instance where there was fraud, or there was theft, or any major accusation that would have raised any fears for the Emir. And I think he was able to conveniently defend himself. Those that were supposed to be charged to come to defend the administration and the finances were not really invited to come and defend the finances. So the whole idea was just create a political reason to hang him. And when Ganduje wants to do something like that, he does it effectively. He will find reasons, whether they exist or not, to actually try to destroy people. He could do it very cunningly, but he's very good at doing it. I went through his administration, and I know, and I was a victim of that process. I know that he took me to court myself, and we had to spend 3 years court before I was acquitted, and there was no substance in what they brought to court, but they tried, as much as possible to use it for political reasons, to turn me into an anti-Concosia person or whatever, to manipulate me. And so I know he must have tried similar things with the Emir, but the intention is always sinister. It is not, that probe was not meant to look for anything other than something embarrassing enough to be called a scandal, so that you could use it to witch hunt, and at the end of the day, probably destroy the reputation of a person, and then use that opportunity to take a job away from them. And it's something that is common for people. And now that they are out of government, probably we will begin to see the repercussions of all of these things.
Interesting. I want to go back to Abubakar Kari. Mohammed Sanusi II, as the 14th Emir of Abubakar Kari, was quite vocal. When he was governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, he was vocal. And this did not give him problems. He even had problems with the man who put him there, whose movement or party has reinstalled him. That's Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, gave him problems. But Kwankwaso refrained from removing him. Does Mohammed Sanusi II, now 16th Emir of Kano, need to probably put a seal on his lips and be a bit more quiet and shrewd this time around?
One of the major complaints or accusation against him was that he was talking too much. And emirs and traditional rulers, even though the traditional institution is supposed to operate mutedly. In other words, emirs are not supposed to be so loquacious, so garrulous, commenting on virtually every issue under the sun. There are those who believe that what he was doing was quite unconventional. At least it was untypical of emirs. And even those who counted themselves as his supporters were not exactly comfortable with his tendency to open his mouth too wide and too easily. So I think it would be better for him if at least he keeps a little bit mute, even if he has things to say. Many people have argued that there are better, easier and more convenient ways of doing so, particularly since he has sufficient access to the government and the powers that be. So I think the issue of talking too much or talking too easily was one of the major albatrosses around the neck of Sanusi, and he should try as much as possible this time around to refrain from doing that.
Okay. What's your take on this, Farouk Bibi? You think he needs to tone down a bit more than he did in his first coming?
Well, I think the expectation that our leaders, especially traditional spiritual leaders, should tone down or refuse to take interest in what is happening to us and maintain a kind of a status quo. In fact, what status quo? A status quo created by a conquest. Conquerors came and created a system, imposed it on them and imposed it on us. And if we are arguing that we have exited that situation, unless we want to say we are still under the colonial rule and they should defer to the colonial system, yes. But it is, yes, I agree that there are certain respectful ways of doing things. But Sanusi, when you fight for justice, it is a bit difficult to be polite and too civil. Because when you see injustice, it affects you so much that you must express it. And when the people who are oppressing you find you expressing yourself on injustice, they tend to be brutal. We can see it. It's a global thing. You can see with Palestine, we saw it. With the Jews, we saw it. Once you resist oppression or you stand on the part of right and justice, you are bound to be a victim of oppressors. And I think Sanusi was that. Yes, he has a background which permits him, or which brings out in him this impatience with injustice, from his parental background to the education. He went to Abu Zaria, my faculty of social science, when it was at its most radical time. So, I mean, what is wrong with somebody, for example, saying, I'm in charge of the accounts of this country and I cannot find 20 billion. And I've sent a message to ask, where's $20 billion? And nobody is telling me. At least history has now covered him. He was able to say these things are happening, and I don't know about them.
But Abubakar Karis, it seems you're of a different view to what Farouk is saying. You're saying he should tone down.
He will do himself all of good if he turns down, because it is not only on the issues of injustice that Sanusi easily talks about. He freely comments on political issues. He comments on controversial issues. The way he carries himself, he appears to savour the click lights. He cavets the media, so to say. And this is being seen in a typically traditional society as unconventional. There is nothing wrong in coming out to talk about injustice and certain vices in the society. But these are not the only issues Sanusi talk about. He easily dabbles into politics and easily gets into trouble. Some of his, some naysayers and detractors are already predicting that it is just a matter of time. He runs into trouble with the Concosia movement because of that, his tendency to easily talk and speaks on all sorts of issues. So I still believe that it is better, even from the position of self-preservation and trying to not get into unnecessary controversies if he turns down his voice.
All right, Farouk, Bibi Farouk, you want to say so? I saw you mustering a smile here and there when he was...
Thank you for giving me the opportunity, because I know my brother Kari stands very well on what he's saying, and I respect that, and I know that. And we always have this, I have a more radical approach to these things. And I think that a leader should be able to be vocal enough wherever he finds something that needs to be said or needs to be done. I think Sanusi, yes, maybe he would mature a little and not be too open to certain discussions. But he did not ever say anything that was that politically malicious as it is being claimed. He had never joined a political party. In fact, to be honest, if you look at it critically, he was not a creation of Kwankwaso at all. It was the circumstances that created him, not Kwankwaso himself. Because before Kwankwaso appointed him through the nomination of they had times when they were not in good times at all. They were not really the best of friends, but he was at least one of the best suited people at this point in time. In Kano, we believe in saying it as it is. Even our traditional system, even when Aminu Kano comes from a part of the traditional blue blood system. So even from within the traditional system, there are people who stand firm to say this is wrong, this is right. And yes, the only thing you could say is, have you, as an emir, informed the leadership through other means? And they ignored you. But there are certain things that are being done that you know that it is not about information. It has become a norm among our leaders to just expect that they can oppress and take what they want without anybody asking questions. And they've been very hurt where it is a member of the clique who is supposed to be a traditional ruler enjoying sirens and salaries and so on. Why should he say, for example, there are too many children out of school? That people are marrying and given birth to children and they cannot take care of them. Those were his offenses. There was not really political offenses. He was accused of supporting a party, but he had never come out to say, I'm supporting so party. Yes, they said personally within the Emirate, he asked his people to support Abba. It is not an offense. To start with, it was his personal opinion. Secondly, Abba is of the blue blood like himself. He's his cousin, both from his father's side and from his mother's side. And he had confidence in him because he saw him grow up. So if he said Abba would be better than Ganduje personally, and people from this household of the Emirate, I expect you to support Abba. I do not see anything wrong. He never joined the party. You see, Sanusi has been coveted by so many political forces. Even this government wanted Sanusi to join it. He insisted right from day one. He took positions because there was no vacancy in the emirship of Kano. From day one, when he started as a lecturer, from the age of 12, Sanusi had expressed an interest of wanting to be emir beyond anything. When he was central bank governor, he would tell you, I can drop it today if the emirship is available. So there is no reason why you expect that having become emir, he will go and join a political party. He was seen as a very good candidate for presidency, vice presidency, I tell you, before 2023. He rejected it. He said, no, I will never be a politician. I don't want to be a politician. So if he doesn't want to be a politician, why is he being accused of just supporting an idea coming from a politician that is good for his people? I think that's what they are doing. But he had never joined any political party or supported even being a member of the Konkosia. But he took the aspect of education from Konkosia and said, this is good. And when Ganduje started to remove it, he felt hurt that, no, I think you could allow people to be educated. Why would the budget of scholarships be used now for just 3, 5, 7 people? Those are the questions that people in power don't want to be asked, especially by people who they feel they should control because they have instruments of power with them.
This debate is going to go on and on and on. Should Mohammed Sanusi II, the 16th Emir of Kano, be different from Mohammed Sanusi II, the 14th Emir of Kano? Of course, Abdullahi says he needs to tone down his rhetoric and be more statesman and be seen more and headless. Whilst, of course, Farouk Bibi, you're saying that he can say what he wants to say and can be as vocal as he was when he came the first time. I don't know if we have, do we have Musa Aliyu, who joins us from Kwara on the line?
Yes, good evening. Thanks for having me.
All right, Musa Aliyu, it's good to have you. Thank you very much for your time. Good evening to you. Give us your thoughts on the developments in the past 24 hours. Our guests have said they were not surprised and they saw it coming. What about you? Did all these come to you as a surprise?
Yes, definitely it does not come to me as a surprise. Because if you understand the nitty-gritty of the saying that Kano is in translation, that means Kano is the element.
All right, we'll come back to Musa Aliyu later because of the other issues. But I want to go to Abdullahi. Abdullahi, take us through the succession of this Kano Emirate, at least from the 10th Emir, where I think this division began. Because what we know is that Emir Bayero, the 10th Emir, the longest serving Emir, who served for 26 years, was the father of Mohammed Sanusi I, the grandfather of Mohammed Sanusi II. But he had a brother who was known as Bayero. So take us through what happened, because we hear that the Bayero who has removed now, Emir Bayero, is the cousin of Mohammed Sanusi, who has taken his place. They are from the same lineage. Can you run us through that succession and genealogy, please?
Well, okay, going further than that, I think the lineage started from Ibrahim Dabo, actually. He's the great-grandfather, and the Abdullahi Bayero that you talk about as the 10th Emir was son of Abbas, who was a grandson of Ibrahim Dabo. So when Abdullahi Bayero died, his son, Sanusi I, succeeded him. Sanusi I was deposed by the northern regional government of Ahmadu Bello as a result of certain differences and controversies. And when he was removed, he was succeeded by his own uncle, Muhammad Inua, who didn't last for more than a year. And when Inua died, he was succeeded by Ado Bayero. Ado Bayero was a son of Abdullahi Bayero, just like Sanusi I. And Ado Bayero ran for, I think, almost 50 years. He was the one who was succeeded by Sanusi II. Sanusi II is the son of Aminu Sanusi. Aminu Sanusi was the son of Sanusi I. So this means that Sanusi I was a nephew of Ado Bayero, the one that he succeeded. So it is actually the same ruling house. We are talking about cousins and nephews. So it's the same lineage. Since Ibrahim Dabo. So, for instance, it is not like Zaria, where there are 4 distinct ruling houses. It is not even like Sokoto, where even though it is the same lineage, but Mfodio has so many sons, Atiku, Bello, Buhari, and so on and so forth, and all of them, they and their children have been emirs. But this is a direct line from Ibrahim Dabo.
All right. Interesting. Farouk, Bibi Farouk, I mean, would you say that if not for the politics at play in Kano State in the colonial times and early independence, that between Sanusi I and the former premier of the North, that the Bayeros, talking about Ado Bayero, and then his grandchild who just got deposed, that they may probably never have become emirs?
No, actually, like Kari was trying to explain, Kano was a bit more equitable right from the time of Ibrahim Dabo. Right from that time, the families had coexisted together most of the time with a formula where certain princes from different brothers that are expected to at least be old enough when the throne might be available are brought together to live like brothers, so that by the time the power play comes, any one of them that wins still feels at home with the others. If you look at Ado Bayero, he was talking about, most of the powerful princes that supported Ado Bayero were from other brothers of his father, that's Abdullahi Bayero, had the same uncles, the same grandfather, just like it happened with Sanusi himself. Most of the children of Ado Bayero, in fact, his first wife is the daughter of Ado Bayero. So her elder brother is the one that was removed for her husband to be brought back. So they have a tendency to actually cohabit within themselves without too much rancor, and they never divided those ruling houses like we have in Zaria and other places, because they were of the same bloodline. But to be honest, at the demise of the late Ado Bayero, there was this tendency within the children and supporters of Ado Bayero to argue that, having stayed for 52 years, that there was some sense of entitlement for his children to be given the chance to continue. Now, had that happened, that might have taken away the opportunity from all other coins of the ruling family. Like I told you, if it is possible today for Abba Kabir himself, he can be the Emir of Kano tomorrow. He's entitled to it. He's from the Dabo lineage. But some of them have been far away from power for a long time, especially having had Ado Bayero state for 52 or 54, 52 years. So it was just historical destiny that at that point in time, there was a very charismatic, enigmatic, educated, in both Western and Islamic education, and forceful character like Sanusi to have challenged them, having grown with them at the same time as a brother. And the expectation was, having Sanusi been installed as the 14th Emir, the rest of the family would have come around to support him. But I tell you that some of the ones that ended up having Ganduje, made them emirs, emir, refused to follow up with the tradition of the family by supporting whoever ends up being appointed as emir. There is this normal Muslim, Hausa, or northern thing, Islamic thing, that when the decision has been made by court, every other person goes, she's there. You don't even go to court. You leave court, appoints who he wants when he wants, and removes him when he wants, and appoints whoever he wants. But there was this resistance to that belief, and there was
all right, we have to go on a break, Farouk, but yes, you've taken us down memory lane to what happened, what transpired before a new Emir was announced after the demise of Ado Bayero right there, and it was quite a tense time. We'll go for a quick break, and when we return, we'll look at some of the other issues popping up in Kano State around this development. Please stay with us. Welcome back. We still have Public Affairs Commentator, and of course, Farouk, and we also still have Abubakar Kari, political scientist, both joining us virtually from Abuja, and of course, looking at the re-emergence of Mohammed Sanusi II as the 16th Emir of Kano. Of course, attendant issues there. We'll look at all the issues surrounding that. But I want to go back to our guests. Abubakar Kari, we hear that already there are protests in... Okay, we've lost connection with Kari. Let's go to Farouk Bibi. Farouk. We hear there already are protests in Abuja, including at the National Assembly, even outside Aso Rock Villa. Some fear that this situation will lead to, or this development will lead to further chaos, and breakdown of law and order in Kano State. What do you think about this?
Well, unless it is schemed and planned by certain characters, which probably happened before, because some of those characters, you can find them around. I don't think the people of Kano have anything against the reinstatement of their emirate into one single unit that has existed for more than 1,000 years. You can't go to the Benin Kingdom, for example, today and start creating other obas of areas around Benin and say they have the same first-class status and the same relevance with the Oba of Benin, or Ile-Ife, or even Oyo. Kano has a history that is even older than that, probably. The people of Kano felt that there was a deliberate attempt to discredit and diminish that traditional institution. Out of some malice, probably, because it could happen. Sometimes, this is a different system. It's not only the blue blood who protect the institution that would have access to constitutional powers. Some of the people that have access to constitutional powers are children of former slaves of the palace or courtiers of the palace who have gotten educated, made money, and now take offense in the fact that they are what their parents are, and probably would come after the Emirates themselves. This has happened in a lot of places. So the balkanization and the bastardization and cannibalization of that institution has now been reversed. And Kano people would be happy with that. We cannot go to tell our history and say certain person one day decided, through wars.
Yeah, but Farouk, sorry to interrupt you there. Sorry to interrupt you there, sir.
A lot of conflict and wars.
Yes, sorry to interrupt you there. So what if the APC wins the next Kano governorship election? Some fear that when they come back, they'll say, okay, we are back, let's put a man back there, and Ado Bayero returns, and it leads to further confusion and chaos. And so some therefore say that the governor should have just allowed sleeping dogs lie.
No. You see, they had already set a pace. They had broken the tradition. That's where the damage was done. You see, like I told you, it is not only in Kano that we have had powerful princes that had political influence that could change their traditional institution to their favor, that had refused to. If I start telling you, there was a time in Zazzau where Aminu Tijani of Zazzau was more powerful than the Emir of Zazzau. There was a time in Sokoto where the Sardauna was more powerful than the Sultan, or the late Sarki Sultan of Borno was equally as powerful as the Sultan. There are times in Kano where the Galadima Kano Tijani Hashim was as powerful as anything. He could use his influence to remove any king and install himself. but they preferred not to take the matter to political fields and seek for political intervention to remove. They waited until when there was a vacancy. Some of them got the vacancies, some of them never got those opportunities, but they were content with the fact that they did not attempt to destroy the institution. But what happened under Ganduje was a direct politicization attempt to destroy the institution for the benefit of those who felt that it was an entitlement for them to be in power. So now that it has been reversed, if it is going to come back again, then we will know that the damage will be worse than before. So those who are now coming to think that if power changes, they will do the same thing. They would think that they started it and the damage has been reversed. So if they want to damage again, then there must be a reversal in future.
Baruch Bibi Farouk, Aminu Dan Agundi, a title holder in the Kano Emir, whom you may be familiar with, went to court. And of course, as you well know, there's a court injunction, restraining order, barring the implementation or repealing of that Kano State Emirate Council law of 2019. Therefore, does that render today's ceremony, where an appointment letter was given to the Emir, does it render it illegal, in your opinion?
No, it doesn't, because the judgment could not have stopped the processes. They are arguing that outcomes, the processes should be stopped. But it was an order seeking for fundamental human rights, not an order for installation of an emir.
No, but the installation of the emir is coming on the heels of the amendment or the repealing, whichever it is, of the Emir's Council law of 2019. And the order is restraining the parties from taking any further action pending the determination of the substantive matter.
You see, the 2019 law that balkanized Kano into four was the one that was repealed. It is the 1984 law that gave governor the power to appoint an emir that was used to appoint Sanusi. And what they are arguing about is the processes that took place of reversing the 2019 law in the State Assembly. And they felt that reversing that one affects their fundamental human rights. They needed to have argued. You know, I think the judiciary should be, at least they have done enough damage to politicians. I don't think they should be too interested in going to traditional institutions to commit the same thing. People are saying that the judiciary is now a supermarket. You just go and pick an item and pay a price and it comes up. I think we should not allow the judiciary to be that bad. Recently, today I read something, I've not yet confirmed it, that the judge that made that order is not even in the country. But I'm not sure about it, but I read it somewhere.
All right. So we're not sure. We don't want to dwell within the realm of speculation. But Bibi Farouk, we want to thank you so very much for your time. You yourself, and of course, Abubakar Kari, we've enjoyed your analysis tonight. We'll keep our eyes on what's happening there. And of course, what I can say from all I've heard is that Sanusi II is very much like Sanusi I, in character, in faith, but maybe he made a comeback that his grandfather wasn't able to make. Bibi Farouk, we pray for the peace. We pray for the peace of Kano State and the prosperity of the Kano Emirates. And I want to say to you, Nagode, thank you very much for your time tonight.
You're welcome, Koffi. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. And of course, that's the size of our package this week. I also say Nagode to those of you who've watched us on behalf of our entire team right here in the studio. Thank you very much for your time. Politics HQ returns next week with more analysis. Good night.